Swedish developer-publisher Paradox Interactive has opened a new internal development studio in California and appointed formerly executive vice president Rod Humble as studio head. The new opening is called Paradox Tectonic, and according to Humble, who's also the former CEO of Second Life, Creator in the lab will look to create open, fun, and beautiful games that respect the player's intelligence. Although it's the new kid on the block, Tectonic is already leading development on a brand new game, which will be published by Paradox Interactive. Our studio structure is using best practices for modern development, a flat organization in a low-friction environment with a team of highly experienced domain experts, commented Humble, explaining Tectonic's approach to production. It's a privilege to be reunited with so many world-class colleagues from so many AAA projects, and the team and I are delighted to join Paradox and be part of driving the company's next cycle of growth. The emergence of Tectonic means Paradox now has 6 international studios scattered throughout Sweden, the Netherlands, and the United States. And company CEO Abba Lgungeovudsaid Paradox now sits in the heart of one of the largest gaming and tech communities in the world. One of the most common actions performed in VR is taking objects, moving, rotating and throwing them. So one of the usual actions to program in VR development is a consistent way to deal with that kind of interactions. I have been working with Unity for years, developing video games and VR applications, and I have tried many different ways to grab objects. I am going to explain them with pros and cons. Before explaining my recently discovered new approach, the first idea that comes to your mind if you have been developing with Unity 3D before could be this one. When grabbing an object, make it child of player's hand, and set a task kinematic. That works perfectly. The object follows hand's position and rotation smoothly, but it has an inconvenient. Kinematic rigid bodies only detect collisions with rigid body colliders, as the following table shows. Table from https://unity3d. Manual colliders overview.
HTML.
Rigid bodies are bought for performance. They are supposed to be used to simulate physics, and with that in mind, they should be used only for that. So we should use rigid bodies for that objects player can grab and throw, but not for walls and other static objects. Of course, you can set the object non-kinematic, but it will make it move on player's hand on every collision. That can be fun for a casual experience, but it is nonsense for a real, serious game experience. Imagine using a sword in VR that stagger on every hit ending with the sword pointing backwards in player's hand. But do we really need collisions with static colliders and other kinematic rigid bodies? Well, it depends. Maybe you do not need it. If that is your case, that approach is okay for you. But I like to improve my experiences games with details, like some spark particles on a stone wall, when player hit it with a metallic weapon with enough force. If you feel you would like to improve your game's VR experiences, keep reading from Unity's manual. Fixed joint restricts an object's movement to be dependent upon another object. This is somewhat similar to prompting but is implemented through physics, rather than array NSF The best scenarios for using them are when you have objects that you want to easily break apart from each other, or connect to objects' movement without parenting. That way, you can add a fixed joint component to grab objects, and when grabbing it set connected body public variable of fixed joint component to the hand. The problem here is that hands need a rigid body component, and even worse, fixed joint physics fight all the time with the object simulated physics, and that causes some weird behavior. From Unity's manual, a constraint component links the position, rotation, a scale of Gamasutra, the fundamental object in Unity scenes, which can represent characters, props, scenery, cameras, waypoints, and more. A GameObject's functionality is defined by the components attached to it. More info, see in Glossary to Anothermy object. A constrained GameObject moves, rotates, on scales like the GameObject is linked to. I found that some maths ago, and I thought it could be the correct way to solve my problem with object grabbing. Specifically, I tried with parent constraint. That is what Unity's manual says about it. A parent constraint moves and rotates a Gamasutra as if it is the child of anothermy object and the hierarchy window. However, it offers certain advantages that are not possible when you make only a object parent of another. A parent constraint does not affect a scale. A parent constraint can link to multiple GameObjects. A GameObject does not have to be a child of the GameObjects that the parent constraint links to. You can vary the effect of the constraint by specifying a weight, as well as weights for each of its source GameObjects. For example, to place a sword in the hand of a character, add a parent constraint component to the sword GameObject. In that sources list of the parent constraint, link to the character's hand. This way, the movement of the sword is constrained to the position and rotation of the hand. With that example, what could be wrong? I tried it with, apparently, success. It works more or less like fixed points, but without physics tricking things. I tried to write my own code to copy position and rotation of player as hand to grabbed object before, and it did not work at all. I think constraints work that way, but they are unable to execute it in the correct precise moment they need to, because they are part of the engine. The problem: constraints are so much better than fixed points, but it seems like they find rigid body physics to undo bumping frame. By frame I realized that objects collided were jumping to strange positions sometimes after a collision. That triggered false collisions around the player, and it was so annoying. Before explaining my recent discovery, I would like to point out that there are a lot of plugins that make a developer's life better. On Unity asset style you can find them. I do not know if they solve this problem, but if you want to work quickly and you do not mind to work tight or other code architecture, you can try. Recently, I have tried to use check and pose a driver component, the same I use to make game camera and hands follow the headset and controllers, to grab objects in Unity. When player grabs an object, that is what happens to it. What that code do? The simplification of my code. I'd use offsets to grab objects in different ways, but here it uses hand rotation and position of pose provider. It is important to say that best pose provider is experimental and it can't change. It will migrate from Unitarian, experimental, XR, interaction for sure. With that new approach, all seems to work perfectly. With collisions with walls and other static colliders, and without strange physics simulations. I do not know if this is the best approach for grabbing objects in VR with Unity 3 at this moment, but this is the best I have been able to figure out. I will keep investigating and trying new things to improve my skills and my games. I hope you have found this post useful. If you have any question, do not hesitate to ask here. Sending at email to email protected. Thank you for your time. The Razer Game Store is closing down after just 10 months. and will cease operations on February 28. The digital storefront was opened by Razer in April 2018, and sold keys for existing platforms like Steam Manga Play. The marketplace also offered exclusive Razer discounts and Razer Silver rewards that could be redeemed against other games and peripherals. Razer did not specify exactly why it has decided to turn its back on the storefront, simply explaining the decision is part of its wider realignment plans.